with AI models becoming so powerful, everything is becoming more and more cheap. There is more expectation for every dollar of expense. But what I'm coming to is that if I'm trying to, let's say, build a voice intelligence platform, or I'm trying to, let's say, just do a simpler voice editing thingy using AI, it maybe made sense at some point in time. But today, as the models are becoming stronger, if I think of the use cases where someone is maybe using a voice recording platform, or for that matter a voice generation platform, they are likely going to use it in a video. So it makes sense, or it may not be a bad idea to think about a future where likely every video production tool or platform would end up supporting it in house. And what I'm essentially coming to is that this is relatively easier to predict because it makes sense, we are familiar with it. But if I reflect back on the last 5 6 years as well, for example, back during my days at Sprinkler, sentiment analysis was a
Mm.
very big thing. And sentiment analysis used to be like a key pitch that we used to make to a lot of folks out there. It used to be one of the most loved features. Essentially, we were crunching through a lot of social data and figuring out who is talking positively about you. And suddenly, with generative AI, today, all of those companies that may have hit a certain milestone, now they see suddenly their valuations plummet because everyone can do sentiment analysis just sitting on their laptops in like a relatively very quicker time frame. How should someone go about applying the first principles thinking, or like applying the thing that you talked about, that hey, stick to whether it's actually a pain point in a scenario where technology is evolving so fast?
I guess there are two things that come to mind from a first principle perspective. You need the product itself,
Mhm.
but then you also need distribution. As product people, as entrepreneurs, as technologists, we can often get enamored and fall in love with the product itself, but then not put enough effort or focus or investment on what it means to get distribution. We need to have both of those. And there's definitely a clear example of that most recently, especially related to my background, is so I came out of Microsoft and then went into Slack. There we have two competing products. We've got Slack, the messaging platform and productivity platform or collaboration platform. And then you've got Teams, which
Yeah.
is a video conferencing collaboration platform as well. Looking like they are going after the same market, but with very different emphasis on different aspects of the product. But the key difference between the two was not necessarily the product, although those differences were stark. It was actually the distribution mechanisms. Microsoft, with strong relationships, strong sales motions going after the enterprise market, leveraged that distribution model that Slack was still building at the time, getting into the enterprise and building out that distribution model. So that's the first thing to look at is, okay, it's not just the product, but it's also distribution. First principles thinking about what you're building as you're thinking about your company. The second thing is really what it comes down to and how the intersection between the product itself and the customer and the user and the consumer. And there we really need to think about the moats or the differentiation. And there are essentially three different layers that we need to be thinking about. The first one is the data layer, if you will. That I think is self-evident. If you're relying on or you're dependent upon somebody else's source of data, then inherently you're going to have a strategic weakness or a vulnerability that you need to shore up over time. The next level is really the intelligence layer. So obviously there's data and then there's building that intelligence layer. And that is where artificial intelligence can come in, whether it is chat related or whether it is video related, etc. Right? But there's got to be some sort of a secret sauce there. There's some sort of intelligence, some sort of differentiation, intellectual property that differentiates you in a sustainable way. And then last but not least, there is the engagement layer, the experience layer. And that is how are you emotionally engaging and connecting with your user? Because at all three levels, what you're really leveraging there, or what you're really trying to build in, is increasing, it may be a dirty phrase, but lock in or increase the real or perceived switching costs of your user. So you're attracting customers in. Once you've got them onto your platform, you're delivering value that you're monetizing, and you want to be ensuring that you're solving a problem at a high level of frequency, like we were talking about before, in a differentiated and delighting way, so that somebody doesn't want to move off of your platform and go to a competing platform. So again, the two first principles thinking I would think of is product distribution. Then think about your strategic, long-term, sustainable differentiation at three different layers: the data layer, the intelligence layer, and the experience or the engagement layer. And you don't have to have all of them, but you need to ensure that you'll get to all of them eventually.